Hello there, Evie here. So I've got a couple of questions to ask with regards to which keyboard switch should you get next. Now I bear verse to the videos like this, titled like this, which keyboard switch should you get, that basically they do a lot of ASMR content, a lot of close-up stuff, saying this is what the blue key sounds like, which really doesn't do anything for you as a consumer, because at the end of it, you still never actually touched the key and felt what it's like to press. You've still never heard it for real life, because microphones, if they're not properly calibrated, and I mean properly calibrated, can sound more tinny or sound a bit beefier than the reality. So likely the microphone I'm using now is making me sound a bit beefier and a bit less annoying than I sound like in real life. So in this video, the question is, can a keyboard switch testing unit like this AKWOX one I've got here, which is sold in America and the UK, there's a link in the video description, an affiliate link for Amazon, and if you do use it to buy this one in particular, then it will give a small kickback to the channel. But I've got this unit here, which I purchased myself, just to find out, can I use it, and at the end of fiddling around with it off camera for a certain amount of time, come to a conclusion as to which switch I exactly want to get. Now this isn't a 9-key MX Cherry one, so I've got a pretty solid range of the MX Cherry keys. I also want to know, or break down a little bit, is it financially viable to do something like this, and we'll break down the certain costs of this and some other different types of switch testing units around. So without further ado, I'm going to do a very quick short mini review of the AKWOX key testing unit, and then we'll jump into the end after I've played around with it off camera to work out, can I tell which one I want next, which full keyboard of switches I want next based on this small tester, and is it financially viable for yourself to do such a thing? So here's the quick unboxing. Box, packaging, keycap remover and more packaging, and the AKWOX Cherry MX switch tester itself. There's not a lot to go over here, but we have got a smoky transparent acrylic laser cut base and nice-ish engraved logo, but they seem to have missed removing the protective sheet from the closed counters. That's apparently what the enclosed sections of the letters are called. Thanks, Wikipedia. Anyway, it's okay, we can sort this out easily enough ourselves. So just before we get into checking out all the switches, I thought it would be interesting to check out the base where you can see all the terminals of the switches. Okay, now we can check out the switches. In a poorly shot transition segment akin to stop motion animation, in this unit we have the Cherry MX green, blue, dark grey, clear, red, light grey, white, brown and black switches. And this isn't the point of this video, quite the opposite, but if I don't do a simple breakdown like this, someone will complain. Something that's quite handy with this testing unit is the inclusion of O-rings to get a feel for a key that's dampened and one that's not. And if it's not clear already, I flipped over the center key only and the rest are right side up. So now comes the testing part to see if I can definitively figure out which switch I want all over my next keyboard. Now this is a process that can take a fair amount of time. Sure, you can hammer away at the keys for a while, which is the initial temptation, and if you're new to mechanical switches, you probably want to get in on that click. But rather than doing any of that, you'll more likely spend a fair amount of time getting a feel for the differences between the switches, and then trying to figure out which one you'd put money down on to experience across an entire keyboard. But before I move on, I'd just like to round off my mini review of the AKWOX Cherry MX switch testing unit by saying, yeah, it's pretty good. If you wanted a switch testing unit, this is one to look out for. So I've had a bit of time to play with this, and first question I want to answer is, does this narrow down the key that you want for your keyboard? And I can imagine you'll understand by the tone of my voice rolling off at the end there, maybe. It's kind of a multi-part answer to a single-part question. Sorry. Let me go through that though. It's first things first. It certainly narrows down what you're not interested in. It narrows down which ones you thought, I was really interested in that one. Next keyboard I'm going to get is an MX Brown. For me, that was the kind of decision I had going into this, and I was really interested to try it out. But it's a really light key, and the bump isn't very satisfying to me. It's kind of feels like it's not very intentional, whereas the stiffer buttons, like the dark and the light grey, they have a more satisfying, bump to it. It's a very solid bump, and it's a very solid sounding switch to me. Or solid feeling switch, no sound to those ones. But there are other keys that I definitely didn't like, so the sound of the high click sounds of the blue and greens, Really not a fan of those. I thought I might like them more, but they really are quite audible. But I did quite like the idea of the stiff tactile bump and click of the white, which I really wasn't expecting. It wasn't the key I was considering. I was considering the core colors, so the brown, the blue, and the green. I really didn't consider the grays or the white, but those seem the most compelling to me now. So that's really interesting. The difficulty I have now at this point is, for me, I do a lot of typing. I'd like to know what these keys are like across maybe a couple of thousand words in an evening, but that's difficult to tell when you've got one switch, and to try it out over lots of fingers like a typing experience, you need to switch your fingers out very accurately and carefully, or you'd need to try on a full-size keyboard and give it a real shot. Now, for people that have access to stores like gamer stores that have these, especially set up on computers, another point about this is you don't understand when the actuation is of the click through the keyboard to the computer, but you do have an understanding of the feel. So that's something this doesn't give you. So if you do have access to a store that either have these hooked up to computers or not, you will at least be able to get a good feeling for what it feels like over give it a good minute or so on each different key set across the keyboards that are available there, and you'll get a better experience. Even better if they're hooked up to a computer, you get a better experience of the actuation of that referencing for each click you do. So it's interesting, but maybe not the best for those who have good access to some keyboards. And if you did, why are you here? Go and find those keyboards in stores near you. But for me, I don't have access to those. I could buy keyboards and return them for ones I know I really don't like the experience on, but frankly, the amount of time it would take for me to sink in and feel, I'd have to do an evening per keyboard, and that just feels a little bit immoral to me to send keyboards back and buy a few in. It just, doesn't sit well with me. But at least I can take, the minimum I can get from this is making an educated guess on which one I like and which one I should purchase. So the question is then, is this financially viable? Well, let's go over some prices. So I've got prices for Amazon UK and Amazon US, so America, and those should give you a good idea if you're in different regions. So for an MX Cherry one of these, a 9-switch MX Cherry, it'll be £14 or $18, which, that's the average price, not, I was looked at a few and went, it's around about that. So for Kale switches, for a 9-key set, by the way, 9-key I feel is the best bang for buck. 4-switch ones, for like main ones, you get the core ones. They don't have a lot of variety, and they're really not that less expensive than the 9-switch ones, so 9-switch is what I go for. So for Kale, £10 in the UK and $17 in US, so that's for the 9-key switch. Gateron didn't find in America on Amazon America. I'm not sure if Gateron is a popular one. I haven't heard of it myself, but you can pick a 9-switch one up for £9. And I didn't find any like 9-switch variants. Apologies if you come across them and I didn't. Didn't find them for Razer. Didn't find them for Omron or the Rome Regis, and I didn't find them for one of the other ones. Can't remember off the top of my head. But yeah, you can, however, find, and this might be compelling to some of you, you can find a super switch tester version, and that this is sold in the UK. I don't think they're different companies though. I think they're different companies. They're sold in the UK and in America for about £40, $45. Now they are 64 switch testing units, and they cover Kale, MX Cherry, they do cover, I think, Romaji, Razer, Gateron. They do cover a huge amount of these, full range of the switches. And this might be compelling to some of you who've got a bunch of friends and you want to find out which one's for you, because I mean, it would be nice to get this, so MX Cherry, Kale, Gateron, it'd be nice to get all of them, Razer and that sort of stuff, but if you're going to spend between £10 and £14 on each one, it kind of adds up after a few of those to just getting a super key tester switch unit and trying them all out. But again, you won't get the full experience of a typing keyboard. You've got the 64 keys, but they're all different ones. It'll feel weird, and it's not connected to anything, so it makes no difference. But yeah, so if you've got a bunch of friends, you can all round up together, spend, if you've got 4 or 5 friends, these 4 friends, you can spend, what, £10 each or $10 each, and you can get yourself one of those switches, testing kits, and then you can sell it afterwards for, say, half price or a little bit more than half, which is generally what I get for when I sell my equipment, when I do reviews, and that could help you out a lot if you're a bit far away from stores and stuff. But if you're close to stores, go and check those out in store. So now we all need to pretend that I didn't forget the point I was making, and I'm not jarringly cutting this in after the fact. Okay, so the point I was making is, if this is financially viable, well, we need to take into account the cost of the keyboard that we're looking to get. So if you're looking to get a keyboard at the lower end of mechanical keyboards, say £70 or maybe £60, $70, that kind of region, then you really do need to strongly think about, is adding an extra up to 20% onto the cost of your keyboard worth it? Now, bear in mind, you can get potentially half of the money back if you sell this, which is generally when I sell bits of tech, I get about half or so of the money back, but the cheaper stuff you don't get a high percentage on. So say you get half the money back after selling it, then you need to put a value against being more certain than not that what the switch that you're getting for your keyboard, which you're going to buy in the end, is more accurate or not what you would actually want. So for instance, I was more for my example here, I was more than confident before that or more than not confident that I was going to get an MX Brown, because everyone said it's got the tactile feedback but it hasn't got the noise. But now I've felt it, it's too light. It's the tactile feedback there just doesn't feel solid enough. So I definitely don't want that all over my keyboard, and that'll be a wasted investment. I'd feel that MX switches or Cherry MX switches just aren't what they're cut out to be. But really, the switch just isn't for me. There are other switches I prefer, ones that I wasn't considering. So on that level, then you just need to put a value against what that is worth. Now, the value for this becomes even greater the more money you're going to spend on your keyboard. Now, that isn't saying go and buy a more expensive keyboard. That's saying that if you are planning to get a more expensive keyboard, this becomes a better value, because obviously the percentage being forked out on top is lesser. And again, if you sell it, you get a little bit of back. So if you're looking at £100, $100 plus, then this is only looking like 14 to 18%, depending on your pounds or dollars. And then on top of that, if you sell it, then it's only looking at less than 10% to be more certain about which key you're getting. Again, if you don't have access to full-size keyboards to test in stores. So that's really the point. You need to put a value of whether you want to be more or less confident about what you're getting. It's great to try stuff before you buy it, and I certainly recommend doing so. But again, it's up to you about what you're willing to spend. I hope that covered everything for you. It isn't the solid answer. Nothing is. There's no solid, you should definitely get this, because there are other considerations to take into account. So anyway, I hope it at least helped out. If you want to check out any other videos, things like that, then you can go over there. Remember the Amazon affiliate links for this stuff in the video description. Small kickback to the channel. If you want to support the channel, then you can, like the video, you can subscribe. You can even join the Patreon and support the channel that way financially. Any assistance for that, I'm greatly appreciated. Thank you to all the Patrons so far. And you can, subscribe up there. So anyway, thanks guys. I will catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.